Hi guys, I'm Jim, watching Carlist, and we're here at the 2025 Malaysia Auto Show. It's a very busy day, despite it being the sixth day, the second to last day that this event is happening. What I want to ask is, for you guys, have you visited this place, seen all the cars and all the booths, and any cars, according to you, stand out, or any multiple cars stand out? Let us know in the comments. But I just want to give you like a little tour of this place and see what you may have missed out and what we can expect this whole year, or at least the remaining year so far, based on what we've seen at MAS.
Now that all the cars have been shown off and we're a few days in, I wanted to come back and gauge what actually we all got out of this. Who are the winners and who are the not so winners? And what are the overall takeaways? Basically, this is the too long tak baca or too long tak kisah, super condensed version of the most important stuff that went down at MAS 2025. And what that means for the automotive space in Malaysia in the coming year.
And second reason is, well, I want to mix it up a little bit because otherwise this whole channel is going to be review after review after review after review after review. So if you like this more casual style of content, just let us know in the comments as well. Let's get to it.
So first of all, the venue. I personally prefer the setup at MeTech for Klims because it's newer and shinier. But hey, you know what? Klims can be a drag for a few reasons. Parking is always an issue and it's expensive, plus test drives are severely limited. Narrow roads, so much construction in that part of KL. I've got to mentally prepare myself to drive into Mount Kera, especially on the weekends, and MeTech is just next door. At MAEPS, there's more wide open space, a lot more roads for test drives, and not just for cars, but bikes and even some off-road stuff.
So first of all, winners and losers. Well, the first winner is you guys, the Malaysian public that actually buy the cars, because I'm shocked, number one, at the turnout of this whole event, because I'm on day 6, like I said, of MAS, and this place is still packed. And number two is because TIV for 2024 was almost 817,000 registered cars, new cars.
That means for 2024, we were second place in ASEAN for new car sales, with a population of just 36-ish million people. That's incredible. Indonesia was first with 866,000 cars last year, but they've got a population of 280 million people. Thailand last year was third place with 72 million people population, but only sold 573,000 cars in 2024.
But typical for Malaysia, we get treated like the third-class citizen. Every time we get a taste of a car over here, like Thailand dah makan, Indonesia dah makan, and then only Malaysia gets a car. Maybe even after Singapore. That shouldn't be the case. And from what I'm seeing over here, maybe that's changing.
The first thing I think the typical visitor here would notice right away is that this kind of feels like I'm in a motor show in Shanghai or Beijing or somewhere. The Chinese brands are just everywhere, taking up the main nerve center here, with other brands, even major ones like Toyota, pushed off to the side a little bit. If you guys were overwhelmed already by the Chinese brands suddenly popping up on our roads, especially if you don't follow the local car news closely, well, you gotta get used to more cars from more brands catching you by surprise. After the big Chinese brands, which we'll get to, then you got Proton, which is half owned by Geely, and Perodua, which isn't. Wow, not better. Padulah semangat Malaysia boleh.
They got the most hype because everyone's waiting for the first homegrown EV. I think it's called the EV1, which, if you think about it, is way more deserving of being called the national EV than something else. I mean, betul-betul buatan Malaysia tau, because R&D in Malaysia, in-house, design in-house, in Malaysia, production in Malaysia, all the technical stuff in Malaysia, all they have to learn themselves, no help from other outside companies, except maybe the battery, which is made by CATL. We can bincang that one later lah. They call this their final episode. So if you follow the series so far, it all began really in 2023, right here in this same hall at MAEPS during MAS, when they announced the fact that they're going to have an EV built in-house anyway.
That was a scale model, but the big deal was the announcement that yes, Perodua is making an EV and it'll all be in-house developed. Then they showed off a full-size MyV-based concept the following year in 2024, also at the Malaysia Auto Show, and then Klims last December came the more bespoke concept. Bigger than MyV and way more flashy and futuristic looking.
This one is almost finished, so they say, alright? It's all covered in mystery right now because they've already wrapped it in a black wrap, which means I can't really see all the details of the body. This car looks bigger than the MyV, even though it should be a MyV size. To me, it looks more like the lines of a Toyota CHR, which is actually a bigger car. Actually, it's a C-segment SUV, but this is supposed to be a B-segment. Performance-wise, no figures so far, but 0 to 100 in about 6.5, 6.7 seconds. So a Perodua with acceleration like a Golf GTI. It's pretty good.
The real story here is how Perodua is tackling the whole ownership package, because you can pay for the car the normal way, but the battery will be subscription-based. Battery as a service, they call it. And you'll be able to swap out the battery pretty easily. This does two things. It makes the upfront cost of the car less, so that they're even teasing as low as around 80,000 ringgit. And secondly, it'll help soften the blow of the biggest downside of EV ownership, depreciation, which is mostly tied to battery deterioration and reduction in charge capacity over time.
This car is launching, supposed to be in Q4 2025, so I guess tak lama lagi, we'll find out what their whole plan is. Proton pula ada the EMAS 5, which, no surprises over here, we all know is based on the Geely, the Xingyuan, meaning we already know everything there needs to know about this car, because it's very unlikely that Geely will make a concession or any kind of significant change based on our whims. So what you see is what you get.
There's no half cut for this one, and we can't usha the interior because, well, it's all tinted cow. But the China spec car, as much as 40 kilowatt hour battery, up to 116 PS and around 400-ish kilometers of range. Top speed, 135 km/h only. So the Perodua should be faster lah. Got a reputation to uphold right as the king of the highway to defend. Sure, it's not as aggressive looking as the Perodua either. The lines here are much softer, more mindful, more demure. The price is also said to be under 100k, of course, maybe around 90k, and that's for the whole car, battery included. Also launching in Q4 this year, as long as Proton's new Tanjung Malim factory is done on time or early, they will start producing this as soon as possible.
But in my opinion, they shouldn't have gone so hard with the wrap, because yes, it is very soft in design and everything, but they also wrap the wheels. In China, this car has alloy wheels, which looks pretty okay. But with the wrap on the wheels over here, it looks like it's got steel wheels. So for your mini EV money, this is contender number 2. And then in this corner, you have the TQ Wuling Bingo EV. Quite small, about the same size maybe as the Proton EMAS 5. But the thing is, this car might undercut them in terms of launch window, because this car's factory already exists. It's already built in Kuala Lumpur. So CKD in Malaysia, CKD in KL, in Segambut. That'll be refitted and upgraded to actually assemble EVs, this car over here. So this car might launch even before the Proton, before the Perodua.
This car is already sold in Thailand and dah lama dah in Indonesia. Up to a 38 kilowatt hour battery, around 400 kilometers of range. Power is even more modest, just 68 PS and 150 Newton meters. Very much a city car, macam tu, but besides that, the design, because of these soft curves, doesn't look too far off the EMAS 5.
There you go, guys. You have at least three of these locally assembled sub 100k small city EVs. So good luck. I mean, if you really want to have EV adoption in Malaysia, you're going to be pricing the cars at a price that the majority of people want to afford, not just for an EV, but actually want to buy a car for that price. Under 100k is definitely a must, especially if you're living in a city like Penang, KL, Ipoh. Just drive it around. Perfect.
Okay, on to the bigger cars, literally. But we're not done with EVs just yet. Think on it. The biggest booth, unsurprisingly, is the Chery Group. There's almost as many brand names here in this one booth as there are individual cars. Come, the Chery Group, we have Chery, Omoda, Zeekr. So now Omoda and Zeekr have had their powers combined, and henceforth shall be known as Omoda Zeekr, Omoda/Zeekr, which is the way it's referred to in all other markets, by the way, except Malaysia. Well, until now.
So the Omoda 5, which is sold under Chery as the Chery Omoda 5, will still be sold under Chery as the Omoda 5, but every single other Omoda branded car going forward, like the C7 over here, will be under the new powers combined Omoda Zeekr coalition. So you've got the Omoda C9, and then now, coming soon, the Omoda C7 behind me, and that'll fit into the whole duopoly of Zeekr versus Omoda. It's like a sleeker, more coupe SUV shape over a Zeekr J7 essentially, because it also comes as a PHEV, but this is not the one over here. The one over here is sort of like a world premiere of the pure petrol version, which makes me more confused as to which actual variant is going to launch in Malaysia when it does launch. Omoda, Zeekr, Chery, and now we have another one, okay? iCar, spelled iCar, see? U over there. Kind of a goofy name and spelling, but their cars are extremely cool, the 03 and the V23. The 03, I think you memang pernah nampak already because last year they were at the same motor show, the Malaysia Auto Show in 2024, but advertised here as the J-Coupe J6. And really, it is the exact same car. I mean, exactly the same car. Anyway, estimated price is 145,000 ringgit. Some quick specs, okay, the iCar 03. Either a all-wheel drive or a two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive variant. Either a 65 kilowatt-hour battery powering a 184 horsepower motor or a dual motor setup with 280 PS fed by a 69 kilowatt-hour battery. Inside, it is modern and quite plush with chunky controls everywhere. People say this car looks like a ripoff of the Land Rover Defender, but I disagree. I think it's more of its own thing. But you know, it's an SUV, so it has to have chunky grab handles everywhere. But a little bit weird is that you have this crystalline, you know, shiny little knob over here. I don't know what it does, to be honest, but it just doesn't really fit with the whole rugged exterior and interior of this car. What you got to know about iCar or iCar is that they specialize in EV SUVs or J-Coupe. Okay, for example, they're more normal, right? They're more normal. They're off-roading, slightly off-roading focused, but mostly it's supposed to be a premium brand of an SUV that is powered by normal engines or a plug-in hybrid. But this is rugged looking and an EV. But the car I think is even more interesting is this, the iCar V23, which obviously looks just a lot like a Toyota Land Cruiser J40, and I have no problem with that. I mean, this car looks beefier and just plain cooler than the 03, but the good news is that it's apparently supposed to be even cheaper. There's no pricing indication whatsoever, but in China, it is positioned below the 03, so it should be cheaper, kan? Power doesn't go as high as a 03, so 211 PS or up to 211 PS, spread over two motors, 550 kilometers of range, as well as a 82 kilowatt hour battery. So sounds pretty good, sounds even better than the 03. So, apa lagi mau? Personally, I am not fully bought into the whole EV thing. As a petrolhead myself, not fully bought into it yet, but this car has such a cool factor to it, like a Jimny, but more car. Sayanglah, if this car had an engine under that big bonnet, I would be all over it. Then I should be more gaga about this car, the J-Tour T2, because it's a boxy SUV. Definitely going for that Land Rover Defender look, like the iCar 03, but more shamelessly. But underneath all this is a normal SUV, a 2-liter turbo engine under that big bonnet. So you have 255 PS and 319 millimeters of torque, and all-wheel drive as standard.
By the way, J-Tour is a new brand to Malaysia, but it's kind of weird because it is not technically associated with the Chery Malaysia umbrella, despite also being a brand under the Chery group. They're a bit late to the party, but they're off to a good start so far. Plenty of people were really hyped about their first model, the Dashing, as well as the just launched 7-seater, the VT9. And the T2 over here is definitely hype-worthy in my book as well.
It should also undercut its biggest competitor in Malaysia on price as well, because the Tank 300 from Great Wall Motors is fully imported. When this does launch in Malaysia sometime this year, it'll be fully assembled in Malaysia. So win-win-win. So before we close out, some honorable mentions, okay? The Zeekr 7X. This car in person blew me away. I mean, Zeekr, if you don't know, is Geely's premium EV brand. But I didn't know they could do premium and luxury like this. I didn't know they would go this hard. I mean, just gorgeous exterior design, okay? From the outside, it is stunning, even though it's kind of a boring white. If you put it in something like blue or black, very, very ngam. Starting from 182,000 ringgit, but that's only for the first 500 customers. But even if you, if you extrapolate that, if you talk about like 10-15% for the non-early bird price, this car is still tremendous value for what it offers outside and inside. It's going to be up to 100 kilowatt hour battery, up to 646 PS, 0-103.8 seconds range, up to 600 kilometers in range. What else do you want? Like, is this the perfect EV? Look, I've got massaging seats. I've got standard air suspension on this car. It's under 200K for the base model. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm looking at a very nicely finished interior. Everything is super tightly made and just fitted design-wise. I see this interaction bar like BMW does on the front. All these things indicate to me that this car should cost a lot more money. Alright guys, so that was the 2025 Malaysia Auto Show. From my perspective, the cars that caught my attention the most, from J-Coupe to Omoda to J-Tour, all those Chery Group cars. The Zeekr was the one that actually impressed me the most, the one that I'm looking forward to testing the most. The biggest takeaway that I had for this auto show is that I think there is something of a sea change in Malaysia. Malaysia is becoming more and more of an important market in ASEAN, because when I was growing up, going to motor shows was like just being in a large showroom a large shared showroom by everybody. And it's about selling cars most of all. It's still about selling cars here in 2025, but more and more it's become about hype building. It's about premiering cars that aren't launched yet, but to build excitement in the market. And that is sort of a signal of a more mature automotive market, and that is happening slowly but surely in Malaysia.